Hey there, viewbots! This is Cyrock Omega, and welcome back to Let's Play Dragon Age Origins. Last time we talked up Morrigan here, as well as the puppy. Our puppy Banquo. So right now, I'd say... I'll deal with them last. Let's start off with Sten. What's his deal? Let's go with this again. Sten. Alright, because I think he is somewhat easily offended, like Morgan. Not quite as bad as her, but somewhat. I want to be on his good side.
Yes.
What were you doing in that cage?
Sitting, as you observed.
That's actually kind of how I... That's actually kind of how I worded it personally, but... that's not what I meant.
It's what you asked.
Are you going to answer my question?
I did. Ashera, was there anything else?
Hold on.
As you wish.
Okay, he didn't mind it that much. It's fine.
Yes.
I have a question.
I am hardly surprised.
Why did you come to Ferelden?
To answer a question.
What was the question?
The Arishok asked what is the Blight. By his curiosity, I am now here.
Do you have to report back then?
Yes.
When are you going to do that?
Never. I cannot go home.
Why not?
It doesn't matter now. Can we move on? We keep the Darkspawn waiting.
Alright.
As you wish.
He seems to be fine with that
Yes.
as well. I have a question.
I am
I'm
hardly surprised.
Actually, never mind.
Very well.
I want to discuss something you mentioned.
Speak then.
That's
Then I
enough for
suggest
now.
we move on.
Wow.
As you wish.
Wow, okay, there was absolutely nothing to do about that. So, I suppose... there you are. Let's talk to Leliana. You probably have something more to say.
Yes?
I'd like to talk. Do it with my left hand right now.
Well, here I am.
This vision of yours...
I knew this would come up sooner or later. I don't know how to explain, but I had a dream. In it, there was an impenetrable darkness. It was so dense, so real. And there was a noise, a terrible, ungodly noise. I stood on a peak and watched as the darkness consumed everything. And when the storm swallowed the last of the sun's light, I fell, and the darkness drew me in.
What then?
When I woke, I went to the Chantry's gardens, as I always do. But that day, the rosebush in the corner had flowered. Everyone knew that bush was dead. It was grey and twisted and gnarled, the ugliest thing you ever saw. But there it was, a single beautiful rose. It was as though the Maker stretched out his hand to say, even in the midst of this darkness, there is hope and beauty. Have faith.
And this made you want to help me?
In my dream, I fell. Or maybe I jumped. I'd do anything to stop the Blight. I know that we can do it. There are so many good things in the Maker's world. How can I sit by while the Blight devours everything?
The Chantry says the Maker has left us.
He's still here. I hear him in the wind and the waves. I feel him in the sunlight that warms my skin. I know what the Chantry says about the Maker, and what should I believe? What I feel in my heart, or what others tell me?
Are you saying the Chantry is wrong?
They said my ideas were blasphemy. But is it so bad if what I believe gives me comfort? If it could give someone else comfort? I know what I know, and no one will ever make that untrue.
Alright.
Yes?
I like to talk.
Well, here I am.
How was life like in the Chantry Cloister?
Quiet. It was a life suited for contemplation. In the cloister, away from the fuss and the flurry of the cities, I found peace. And in that stillness, I could hear the Maker. But it was not perfect. Some of my Chantry fellows were condescending. That is the nature of religious folk, I suppose.
Condescending? How so?
When I talked about my beliefs, that the Maker reveals himself in the beauty of his world, they treated me with disdain. They want to believe that he's gone, so that when he turns his gaze on them, it means they are special, chosen. He cannot possibly have love for all, the sick and the weary, the beggars and the fools.
I prefer your ideas to the ideas of the Chantry.
Thank you. Maybe I am wrong. But it is the Maker's place to decide if I am worthy, not men, not the Chantry. But there is work to be done, and I have talked enough for now.
There we go, got +2 there.
Yes?
I like to talk.
Well, here I am.
Why would someone like you... what would someone like you be doing in Lothering's Chantry?
What is meant by someone like me?
They don't teach you how to fight in the cloister, do they?
Did you think I was always a cloistered sister? The Chantry provides succor and safe harbor to all who seek it. I chose to stay and become affirmed.
What did you do before that?
I was a traveling minstrel in Orlais. Tales and songs were my life. I performed, and they rewarded me with applause and coin. And my skill in battle? Well, you pick up different skills when you travel, yes? Yes, of course. Let's move on.
Alright, is there anything else?
Yes? Well, here I am.
You were a traveling minstrel. Do you have tales to share?
Of course I do. I love stories far too much to keep them to myself. Everyone should be able to benefit from them, I think.
Tell me about Darkspawn.
Chantry law says it is man's pride that created the Darkspawn. In ages past, the mages of the Tevinder Imperium ruled much of the world we know. In their pride, they thought their magics invincible and imagined that they were greater than the Maker himself. So thinking, they invaded his golden city, planning to take it for themselves and depose their own creator. But they were impure and full of sin. And it is with the sin that they tainted the golden city, corrupting it forever. The Maker cursed them and cast them from his sight. Wherever they went, they spread the taint of their sin. Any land that was touched by the taint became blighted and would suffer no life. Instead, the Darkspawn arose to torment us and remind us of our hubris.
Any other... know any stories from Orlais?
Of course, Orlesians enjoy telling stories. I shall tell you my favorite tale of Aveline, the Knight of Orlais.
That sounds interesting.
A long time ago, a girl child was born to a farmer. He had hoped for a son, not a daughter, and so he told his wife to abandon the child in the woods. Before the cold could claim her, the baby was found by a tribe of Dalish elves who took pity on the poor mewling thing and raised her as their own. Aveline, for that is what they called her, grew strong and quick and clever under the guidance of the elves. She learned to wield the sword as well as any man, could kill a deer with an arrow at 100 paces, and was as graceful on the back of a horse as she was on foot.
Continue, please.
Aveline's Dalish guardians saw that she could easily best any Orlesian chevalier in battle, and wanted to show the cruel humans the child they had left to die. They bestowed upon her a fine horse and armor, and sent her to prove herself to her people in the grand tourney. Now in those days, no woman was allowed to take up arms, let alone compete in the grand tourney, but Aveline kept her helmet on and was not discovered.
Go on.
Aveline won many events and gained the approval of the adoring crowd. Eventually, she came face to face with the knight Kaleva in the grand melee. Aveline had already bested him in the joust, and Kaleva was determined not to lose a second time. Out of desperation to regain his honor, Kaleva tripped Aveline and tossed her to the ground, ripping off her helmet as he did so. Silence fell upon the arena as Aveline was revealed. Kaleva declared the previous competitions invalid. A woman had taken part, and this was not allowed. But the crowd cheered for Aveline. Kaleva was furious, for he had lost to a woman and was now being shamed. Blinded by his rage, he forced Aveline to her knees. "Know your place, woman," cried he, and slit her throat.
That's terrible.
The son of the king, Prince Freyan, was present. He recognized Aveline's skill and bravery and began to see the injustice done to the women in his land. When he was made king, he rewrote the laws of Orlais so that women could also become chevalier. He honored Aveline and knighted her after her death. And to this day, any female who is knighted reveres Aveline the Brave, for she is the patron of all women chevalier.
Do you know any Ferelden legends?
I know one, told to me by my mother a long time ago. It always chilled me to the bone. Maybe you have heard of Flemeth?
Flemeth? Morgan's mother was called Flemeth.
Are you sure? Was she the Flemeth of legend? Flemeth, the devourer of men? Flemeth, mother of witches? Flemeth, demon-touched, who dwells in the mists?
She didn't really introduce herself as such.
Ferelden mothers scare their daughters with talk of Flemeth. They say that if you're bad, Flemeth will spirit you away and bind you to her forever. They also say that Flemeth mourns her lost beauty and will steal yours through your looking glass if she catches you.
Tell me the whole story.
Flemeth's beauty was known throughout the land. She had hair like unto a moonless night, skin as pale as winter's first snow, and eyes as beautiful and perilous as the sea. When she came of age, she came to the attention of the Lord of Highever, Conobar, and he took her for his wife. Conobar soon learned that his young bride had the gift of magic. He kept this a secret, for he feared that she would be taken from him. Flemeth stayed with Conobar for some years, and with his blessing, she practiced her art. And then one day, a young poet named Osen came to the castle. Flemeth was captivated by Osen's voice, and he by her beauty, and they fell in love.
What happened then?
Flemeth longed to be with her true love, and she and Osen fled from Conobar's lands, seeking refuge in the Kokari wilds with the Chasing tribes. They lived there happily for many a year, till the day Flemeth received news that Conobar was dying and longed to see her face one last time. Flemeth's heart swelled with pity for the man who once was her husband, and begged Osen to return to Conobar's side with her. But when Flemeth and Osen entered Highever, they were captured by Conobar's men, and Osen was slain in front of Flemeth's eyes. Flemeth was imprisoned in the highest tower of the castle, there to await Conobar's judgment on her. Distraught at the loss of her love, Flemeth plotted revenge against her husband. She summoned a fey demon, intending for it to wreak vengeance on Conobar. But a spell went awry. The demon possessed Flemeth. Turning her into an abomination, the halls of the castle ran red with blood as Flemeth slaughtered Conobar and all his men. The last of Flemeth's humanity melted away, and at dawn, she stole back to the wilds to plot and scheme for 100 years. They say she took to her side many chastened men, and with their help, begat her daughter witches, who even now prowl the dark places of the Kokari wilds.
Is it the same story?
Chantry lore says it is in ages.
Yep, I believe
Any
so.
land that was touched by the taint
Alright.
became blighted and would suffer no life.
Yes.
Instead,
There was another
the
story I wanted to
darkspawn
hear.
Which one?
Do you know anything about the Dalish?
I have heard a little about how the elves gained their freedom from the Tevinter Imperium. When Andraste began her exalted march against the Imperium, the elves joined her cause to fight their masters. The great elven leader, Shatan, born in captivity, rose up to lead his people. He foresaw a future where the elves were free. Shatan was killed when Andraste was betrayed, but the elves continued to fight, eventually breaking free of the Imperium. The elves claimed the Dales in the south and settled there in a land of their own.
It didn't last.
The elves lived in the Dales for centuries. They resurrected the worship of the elven gods and would allow the building of no chantry. This angered the chantry, and the hostility between the two factions finally broke out in open war. The chantry says the elves struck first, but I do not know whether to believe it. The chantry declared a holy exalted march against the elves, named for Andraste's similar march against Tevinter.
A crusade.
During the exalted march of the Dales, the elven cities were sacked, and the elven state completely dissolved. Some of the elves bitterly accepted their fates and surrendered to human rule, living in the human cities as second-class citizens. But others, still fiercely proud of their heritage, refused to bow to the humans, and instead became homeless wanderers. They were the elves of the Dales, the Dalish.
What do you know about Andraste?
Andraste was the Maker's chosen. The Maker had long since abandoned the world when the sound of her singing turned his ear. Beauty, grace, and wisdom enraptured him, and he offered to take her from this flawed world to become his divine bride. But Andraste had an earthly husband and would not forsake him. Instead, she beseeched the Maker to return to his people once more. So earnest was her plea that the Maker was moved and promised that he would create a paradise on earth if all abandoned their false gods and turned once more to him. And this is why Andraste began her exalted march on the idolaters of the Tevinter Imperium. The Maker granted her his powers with which to smite her enemies. Andraste brought the Imperium to its knees, and her victories converted many to the worship of the Maker.
How did Andraste die?
Alas, it was the frailties of men that betrayed and killed Andraste. Her earthly husband, Maferath, a chieftain of the Alamari tribes himself, grew jealous as his wife's popularity and influence overshadowed his own. She was also revered as the Maker's betrothed, and Maferath began to see their own bond waning in significance as Andraste became ever more devoted to the Maker. Out of envy and spite, Maferath made a pact with the Archon Hysarian of Tevinter, allowing his beloved Andraste to be ambushed and captured. Andraste was burned at the stake in Minrathous, the capital of Tevinter.
But Tevinter has a chantry, doesn't it?
The Tevinter Chantry claims that in Andraste's last moments, Hysarian's heart softened, and he heard the voice of the Maker telling him to end her suffering. He plunged his sword into her heart, and as her blood washed over his hands, he became one of the faithful. Dissenters said that the Archon only converted because he could not stem the tide of Andraste's cult, and was forced to do so to stay in power. We will never know for sure.
I kind of want to ask one other thing about that.
Beauty. Andraste brought the Imperium to its knees, and her victories converted many to the worship of the Maker. Her earthly... Andraste was burnt at the stake in Minrathous,
alright.
the capital of Tevinter.
Why did the Maker not save her with his power?
I have thought on this too. Did he withdraw his sight from her at that moment? Where were all the powers he bestowed upon her? This question has come to me many times, and I have no answer. Perhaps there was no way for Andraste to return to the Maker but through her death. We will never know for sure.
Alright, that'll be good. Alright, yeah, we got +5 there. Now... I'll talk to these guys first, and then I'll kind of share some thoughts.
Ah, it's good to see you, my timely rescuer. Bodon Fennec at your service once again. I saw your camp and remember the kind offer that you made the last time we met. And is there anywhere safer for a poor merchant and his son to sleep? I think not. I'm perfectly willing to offer you a fine discount for the inconvenience of our presence. How does that sound? Good? Yes?
What are you selling exactly?
Anything, everything, but all of the finest quality. No cheap trinkets here. And my boy Sandal happens to be a bit of a hand with enchantments. Oh, yes. Sadly, it also makes us a target for bandits and the like. If there were spare hands to hire as guards, I would have done so long ago.
Let me see your wares, Bodon.
I'm sure you'll be pleased with the goods my boy and I have collected, and with your discount.
Alright, let's see here. He's got a lot of nice stuff. Tome of Arcane Technique. A tome researched by Imperial Chantry, a Tevinter offshoot of the Andrastian religion that no longer persecutes magic users. The book grants insight into the Fade, increasing the reader's knowledge of spells. Tome of Physical Technique. A manuscript of physical arts scribed by a master and rarely seen outside of the most prestigious militias and guilds. Careful study grants the reader access to additional rogue and warrior talents. Oh, that looks so good. 22 sovereigns. I'm going to keep that one in mind. Wow, that is a much stronger axe there. That's 21 gold. I'm thinking tier 7. Sylvan's Mercy. Conscriptor's Foil. Proving Helm. I wouldn't say that's necessarily better than what I've got. And there's part of our Blood Dragon stuff. It's only 2 sovereigns, that's not too bad. I'm not going to be able to wear it for quite a while, so there's not really much point in buying it. Spirit Hands. Alright, that's for a rogue. All this stuff is pretty expensive. I don't really think I want to buy much of it. The Earthshatter's Portable Bulwark. That's a heavy shield. Need a lot more strength for that one. Collective Arming Cowl. Enchanter's... Wow, look at all this stuff. Oh, I don't have any belts. Increased monetary gain. That's 93 gold. Silver, it sounds like it'd pay for itself. Increases monetary gain. That sounds really nice. Look at all these enchantments. Yeah, I'll talk to him in just a second. Oh, we'll see about the stick. I think I know who that would be good for. Oh. I think these are the, let me read some of these. Grey Warden Hand Puppet. This tin helmeted puppet is painted with the blue and gray heraldry of the Grey Wardens. These are all free. Canary Prayers for the Dead. Amulet of Memories. Yeah, these things are all free. The Chantry of Light, unabridged. Yeah, these are all the feast day gifts and pranks. Butterfly sword. Sugar cake. Thoughtful gift. Lump of charcoal. Lump of coal. Uncrushable pigeon. Ooh, yeah, here we go. We got specializations here. Oop, and there's a backpack. I think I can buy that. I can buy it soon, but not quite. Yeah, I can buy it soon, but I think it'll stay here, so I can wait for this one. Let's see. Dwarven Merchant's Belt. That looks really nice. That should probably pay for itself, hopefully. Let's see. Okay, I could probably sell... I'll deal with all this stuff later. I'll think about it off screen. Wow, oh man. I want that armor so bad, but I need a lot more strength to get it. Alright, there's that. I'll just equip that really quick. Oh yeah, increased monetary gain. That'll be nice.
Hello. The boy's a bit simple, but he's rather good with enchantments. One of those tranquil fellas actually called him a... what was it now? A savant. I had no idea such a thing existed.
What enchantments does he do?
He can fold lyrium into almost any weapon or piece of armor, though naturally some of the more extravagant materials will take more lyrium than others. It's a process that some of the master smiths back in Orzammar will perform, but my boy here is just as adept at it. Isn't that right, boy?
Enchantment!
There you have it.
Enchantment. I want some enchanting done.
Enchantment!
Oh yeah, isn't he great? Alright, we got Oathkeeper. I think that was his... that was Alistair's old sword. Or is that the one he currently has? But yeah, I can do that. I don't feel like doing that right now, though. Alright, Runes of Enchantment. Oh, what's the quest that he has?
Something you need? I'm sure either my boy or I can help you out.
So what's your story exactly?
Well, if you're really interested, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to tell you. I am originally from Orzammar, the famed dwarven city that lies beneath the stately Frostback Mountains. I was a merchant there, too. Merchant caste. These things are in the blood, you know. You can't just leave them behind. I ran a fairly successful business. Rare artifacts, you know. Old things, grand things. The nobles loved them. Reminded them of the lost glory days, I suppose.
Lost Glory?
Our kingdoms once spanned the length of Thados, from majestic Orzammar to Kal Sharok to glittering Darmalin far to the west. They say the gold and silver veins ran so thick through the stone of Darmalin that the entire city sparkled. The Darkspawn took it all, of course. One by one, the old tides fell, and then all that was left was Orzammar. But we were talking about how I ended up here, weren't we? One day, a noble woman came to my store. She looked around for a bit and then started shrieking in dismay. Apparently, she believed that a pair of braces I had for sale once belonged to her brother. He'd been lost in a cave-in, you see, while on an expedition to clear out the Darkspawn from one of the tunnels running close to the city. They were made specially for him. They're unique, she shrieked. He stole them from my poor brother's corpse. She had me arrested on the spot, of course. Nobles, they're touchy like that.
Well, I can understand why she was upset.
Well, I didn't steal them. You see, I'd been paying these castless thugs to venture out into the deep roads for me. The lost tigers. They're full of things that people left behind. Sometimes you can find a treasure. Something worth a little gold.
I see.
The noblewoman, she wasn't too happy with the theft of her brother's braces. I don't know what they planned for me, and I didn't want to find out. Bribed the guard that was watching me and took off for the surface first opportunity I got. Never looked back.
Fascinating story. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Now, is there anything the boy or I can get you?
Any other questions? You didn't mention your son in your tale.
Ah, yes. I'm married to a fine woman back in Denerim, it's true. She'd give me a son if she could, but that's not likely to ever be. Sandal here. I found him in the deep roads years ago. Abandoned, I think, and he was never quite right in the head. I took him in, and I brought him with me when I came here to the surface. He may not be my blood, true, but I think of him as one.
We left Orzammar.
That's right, boy. Maybe one day we'll see it again.
That was generous of you.
It's not as if I don't benefit, mind you. Turns out the boy's a natural working with enchantments. He might have even been lyrium-addled. I never thought of that before, to be honest. Happens sometimes. He can work an enchantment into just about anything, however, given some time. Could probably open his own shop, if he knew how.
Enchantment.
Well, he does seem to enjoy it, at least.
But where do these goods come from? Not the deep roads.
Look, we don't rob people, all right? We don't take things from people that need them. The things in the Lost Tigers, what good did they do lying there? I brought them back to Orzammar, where people could look at them and remember. It's not all that different up here. There are places long abandoned by the humans everywhere. Even more now with the Darkspawn coming.
What do you mean?
People flee from the Blight with good reason, but they forget things. Things with value and meaning. They leave them behind because they're frightened and desperate. And sometimes, my boy and I, we find our way to these places before the Horde descends, and we save these things. I take them away so the Darkspawn don't get them. It's not so bad. They destroy everything they touch.
I suppose it's better than having the Darkspawn take it.
That's what I tell myself, too. Ah, these are dark times indeed. Dark times, my friend.
Have you heard any rumors?
I don't know what to tell you.
Huh.
Nothing I can think of at the moment.
What? Wait a second. Wait a second. Quest completed. Well. Oh, no way. No way. Is he the same, like... Are all those lines that I went through with the dude at the bar just Bodon FedEx lines? Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Alright, what quest does he have? Let me check. Premium content? Yeah, Feast Day gifts. Feast Day gifts are now available in Bodon's store. The merchant Bodon has given you a wonderful early Feast Day present. He has scoured Ferelden for the perfect gifts for you to give to your companions. He's holding them in reserve at your party camp. Feast Day pranks have now become available in his store. The merchant Bodon has given you a wonderful early Feast Day present. He has scoured Ferelden pranks to play on your companions. Soldier's Peak. Last time you traveled the open road, you caught a glimpse of a merchant in the distance. He appears to be following you. If you can set up camp, he might be able to catch up to you. A king's confidant. There are rumors that a fellow survivor of Ostagar escaped the prison of Ban Loren and is seeking the aid of the Grey Wardens. The Ban's land lies in the northwest reaches of the Banorn. The escaped prisoner is likely taking refuge in the deep woods of the estate. Alright, that's all DLC stuff. We'll deal with that later. But let's talk to this guy right now, the guy who was following us.
You're a hard man to find. Where are my manners? The name is Levy Dryden. Did Duncan ever mention me? Levy of the coins? Levy the trader?
I'm Ardrick. I've never heard of you.
Really? He never told you of old Levy? We've known each other for years. But here I am carrying on while you have a blight to stop. Don't want to waste your time. But you see, Duncan promised that together we'd look into something important for the Wardens. And for me. But poor Duncan's... well, no more. A tragedy it is, at that. But I know he would want his work carried on. His pledge fulfilled.
How did you know Duncan?
It's a bit of a tale, that is. But I'm the one who brought the Grey Wardens back to Ferelden.
Really?
Well, I was one of the ones. There were a lot of us.
Hmm.
Maker's breath, I'm a bit nervous. Honoured to be here, really.
Go ahead and tell your tale.
After King Marek freed us from the Orlesians, the Grey Wardens begged the King's permission to come into Ferelden, some sort of internal business. Me and a mess of other Warden sympathisers spoke on behalf of your order. Tan Loghain was very much against letting Orlesian Wardens in the kingdom. But Marek, Andraste, bless him, was a fair-minded monarch and he let them in.
Go on, I'm listening.
So that's why I was there when the Wardens and their leader, Genevieve, presented herself to the King. The first Wardens in Ferelden in over a century. Proudest state of my life, that was. Duncan was a bit of a scamp back then. We were of an age and struck up a friendship. The King himself went with the Wardens on their mysterious business. When he returned, he rescinded King Ardland's decree, and the Wardens came back to Ferelden for good.
I thank you for your part in bringing the Wardens back. Yeah.
Oh, his stomach's all aflutter. You're welcome.
What promise did you make to Duncan? Did Duncan make to you?
Well, as you know, my family's name is mud around noble circles. My great-great-grandmother, Sophia Dryden, was the last Warden Commander of Ferelden back when the Wardens were known as freeloaders. So King Arland banished the Wardens, and he took House Dryden's land and titles.
What happened next?
Hard to say. After King Arland died, there was a civil war, loads worse than this one. And our family was on the run, hunted by enemies, with nary a friend in the world. But Drydens are tough. We rebuilt, became merchants, and we never lost our pride.
I'm surprised you kept your name.
Our family's only crime was guarding the kingdom against the Blight. We're not ashamed of that.
So what favor did you ask of Duncan?
I asked for the truth. My family reveres Sophia Dryden. We know she died at the old Grey Warden base, Soldier's Peak. We want evidence to clear her name. It won't restore our land or our titles, but it'll restore our honor.
I've never heard of Soldier's Peak.
Well, no one's been to Soldier's Peak since Ireland's days. At least none that's come back. I spent years mapping the maze of tunnels to the peak, and I found the way a few years back. So I went to Duncan, I did, and I said that he could reclaim the old base and my family could have its honor.
How will reclaiming the peak help the Wardens?
Soldier's Peak is strategic and symbolic importance. Duncan said that it would be worth it right there. He also hoped to recover lost Warden history and perhaps a few old relics. No one knows what's up there now.
Why didn't Duncan help you?
Darkspawn surfaced in southern Ferelden, and Duncan got plenty busy recruiting new Wardens and meeting with good King Cailan. Duncan said he would help after the Battle of Ostagar. Said there might be useful things at the peak, but he never had the chance.
Your family's faith will be rewarded. I will help you.
1,000 blessings upon you, Warden. I'll mark down the location on your map. When you arrive, we'll pick our way through the tunnels together.
Alright. So there we go. We've gotten all of that stuff worked out now. So I believe that's all we really need to do. I think I've got... That's just about everything I wanted to do here. Another episode talking to people in the camp. And I'll think about when I actually want to get the pranks and the gifts. I might do that for Christmas or whatever. I'll maybe show you them. Yeah, I might do that. Maybe if I get all the characters by Christmas. Because, I mean, Feast Day is pretty much Christmas. I mean, I gather. But yeah, whatever. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. And we'll see where we're going to head next time. I'm Cyrock Omega. Have a nice day. Later.